Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to the TMCC Institutional Advisory Council meeting. We will start with roll call.
Chair Amargado, absent. Vice Chair Nancy McCormick, running a little bit late. Councilmember Esquada,
Here.
Councilmember Byersdorf,
Here.
Councilmember Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Chisholm, she's absent today. Councilmember Murray, Dr. Clark is absent. Councilmember Hutter,
Here.
Councilmember Macklin,
Here.
Councilmember Madole,
Here.
Councilmember Nanini,
Present.
Councilmember North,
Here.
Councilmember Reed is absent today. Councilmember Schilling is absent. Councilmember Thurman
Here.
and Councilmember Woodring is absent as well. And then state for classified council, Cynthia Oliva.
Present.
And in for Mike Holmes is Annie Fletcher.
Here.
Absentee Vasquez.
Feeling good.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what's your name?
Kazaya Duff.
And for NFA, Julie Neely.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, fantastic. I'd also like to take an opportunity to recognize some dignitaries in our audience today. We are joined by several NSHE regents, including Regent Patrick Carter, who's all the way from Southern Nevada. Thank you, Regent Carter, for being here today. Regent Carol DiCarlo, all the way from Tahoe, by the way. So thank you, Carol, for being here today. Yes, and Regent Geddes, thank you also for being here today. I'd also like to introduce David Singleton. I call him the Transfer King because his title is very long. He's our new NSHE Transfer and Articulation Ombudsman. I did get it correct. Good, yay. So thank you for being here, David. We appreciate the fact that you're in our system and helping us all out. So I hope I got all the dignitaries in the audience before we move on. So now it's time for public comment. Public comment will be taken during this agenda item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item until the matter is included on an agenda as an item on which action may be taken. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Persons making comment will be asked to begin by stating their name for the record and to spell their last name. The council chair may elect to allow additional public comment on a specific agenda item when that agenda item is being considered. Hi, Nancy. So, public comment. Seeing no public comment and seeing that our esteemed chair for the day has arrived, I would like to turn over the mic to Nancy McCormick.
Thank you. Sorry, and I very much apologize for being late today. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for June 15th, 2018 and August 10th of 2018. Do I have a motion to approve both of those sets of minutes together as an action item?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved for June 15th and August 10th of 2018.
This might help too.
Thank you. The next presentation that we will have as the next agenda item number 4 is the College Highlight Presentation, Division of Liberal Arts, Visual and Performing Arts Department. The VP of Academic Affairs, Dr. Marie Mergolo, will introduce Department Chair Ron Marston to present.
Thank you. For the record, Dr. Marie Mergolo-Poor. I am incredibly delighted to be up here to introduce our chair and our Visual Performing Arts Department. I have to say, in 11 and a half years I've been at the institution, I've never been more excited about the future. The morale, the feel, everyone is just so enthusiastic about what we're doing. And this area of visual and performing arts has so many exciting things coming in the future. So it's my absolute privilege to introduce the interim dean, Anna Douglas, and the chair, Ron Marston.
to stand back and let Ron do his thing. This is his show.
Thank you, Dr. Margolo, and thank you, Dean Douglas. So I don't think I need the microphone. I'm going to just stand out here. I'm not used to a microphone. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah. Fantastic. So I am Ron Marston. I am the Chair of Visual and Performing Arts. I've been at TMCC for almost 20 years. I've only been the chair for about a year and a half, but I've spent most of my career teaching graphic arts, graphic design. So I'm here today to give you a fairly brief presentation. I know you have a really full agenda today, so I'm going to try and keep things moving here as quickly as I can. If you have a question about something I say, feel free to stop me and I'll answer questions on the fly, and then you'll have a chance at the end as well. So I'm going to just jump right into it here. So visual and performing arts. I threw a few quotes into this presentation that I hope would sort of set the stage for presenting the value that visual and performing arts programs have. So this is a quote from Steve Jobs. It is in Apple's DNA that technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the results that make our hearts sing. And the reason I'm starting with this is because, and maybe it's a defensive response, but the liberal arts sometimes gets a little bit of a bashing for not teaching practical skill sets, right? Not teaching skills that you would use in a vocation. But of course, we in the liberal arts don't feel that that is true at all. We feel like a vitally important part of what students learn is the liberal arts. And here's one other quote from the Vice President of Citicorp. Broad education in the arts helps give children a better understanding of their world. We need students who are culturally literate as well as math and science literate. So that's kind of the foundation that I would like you guys to consider this presentation. So visual and performing arts is performing arts, which has programs of dance, music, and theater. Oh, and by the way, all of the images that you see in this presentation, all the photos, all the artwork, is all either photos of students or it is images created by students. These are photos taken by Tim Ill, who's I'm capturing this in video right now, but these are photos of the performance that is currently happening at our Performing Arts Center. So performing arts and then visual arts. And within visual arts, we have fine arts and we have graphic arts. All right, so what I'd like to do is start talking a little bit about performing arts, and then we'll talk about the visual arts. And to start off this, we have a little presentation that we'd like to present to you, which is a piece from the production that we're doing right now in our Performing Arts Center, the Westfield Performing Arts Center on Keystone Avenue. We're doing a production of The Wedding Singer right now. You might remember that Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore movie from, or set in the 80s. And so I would like to introduce right now, we have two of our theater faculty here, Carolyn Ray, emeritus faculty who ran our theater program for 25 years. Wow. And then we also have Dana DeFilippis, who's our brand new dance instructor. And we also have some students who I think are coming in right now to do a little presentation for you. So I'm going to turn the stage over to them in just a few minutes.
Good morning, everyone. We're so happy to be here today to share a selection of The Wedding Singer with you. Like Ron said, I'm Dana. I'm the new full-time dance instructor at TMCC, and I've had the wonderful privilege of choreographing this year's musical. We are going to, first I'd like to introduce our students who will be performing for you today. We have Christian Kane, we have Wen Duan, Elise Van Dyne, Wesley Adam Walmsley, Vince Lau, and Quinn Jackson. They'll be performing a selection from Act 2 of The Wedding Singer. Now, The Wedding Singer, the musical, is a romantic comedy, and it's based off of the movie by the same name, starring Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. And the musical is a romantic comedy in every sense of the word. In Act 1, we meet our main characters. They are Robbie, Julia, and their best friends, Sammy and Holly, respectively. In Act 1, we also come to find out that Sammy and Holly had dated, but had been broken up for about 6 months. And over the course of the entire musical, both of these characters reminisce about the good times that they had and about why they broke up and about maybe, could they even maybe get back together again? So it's our second running romantic storyline throughout the musical. This selection that you're going to hear is called Right in Front of Your Eyes, and it does take place in Act 2. And it is Holly's chance to think about what she had with Sammy and what she was missing with him currently, and again, what might have been. And in true musical theater fashion, it is slightly over the top, but very fun. So please enjoy, and I would like to invite you on behalf of our whole production team and cast to come see The Wedding Singer this weekend and next at the Redfield Performing Arts Center on Keystone. So please enjoy.
My mom had some decorations and shit left over from my dad's parole party.
Oh. Thanks. Because nothing says bachelorette fun like welcome home, snitch.
Why you gotta be busting my chops 24/7? I bet you're not even over me. That's why you were all over Robbie the other night. To make me jealous? Right?
Why don't you ask Robbie? What the hell is this?
It's one of those roses you get down at the Sunoco station.
And it comes with an air freshener?
You told me last week that your car smelled like McRibbon socks.
No, I said you smelled like McRibbon socks.
Well, lucky for you, Holly, the McRib is only available for a limited time. And you know what? So am I.
Sammy. Every time you see his face, you get annoyed. And if ignorance is bliss, he's overjoyed. And can we talk about that stuff he calls his hair? But what would happen if one day he wasn't there? You're caught by surprise. Could you wake up one day and realize the one that you want is right in front of your eyes? Every night 100 guys come through the door. Take your breath away each time they take the floor. And they've got the bugs, the tux, the killer face. But you're still thinking of that jackass with the bass. You're caught by surprise. Could you wake up one day and realize the one that you want is right in front of your eyes? You might have a champagne wish or two, plus a caviar dream. What are the lives
Thank you. That was amazing. Wow. Thank you for the treat this morning.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thanks, you guys.
Wake now.
All right, I bet you weren't expecting to see that when you came here.
Very good.
All right, a little bit more about the theater. 7 reasons why the theater makes our lives better. This was written by a man named Howard Shulwitz, who is the theater director at a company called Woolly Mammoth Theater, which is in Washington State. Fairly prominent theater director. And he, back up for a second, his family came from a family of doctors. He was a pre-med student, and then he was, I think, a philosophy major, and then he ended up getting into theater and making a career out of that. And he used to sort of lament the fact that his mom saw that as a sort of a continuing decline in his choices and his ability to sort of serve the community around him. So he wrote this sort of in response probably to his own angst about that. And I actually have a list that explains each one of these, but I think I'm going to just go through these and hope that they're fairly self-explanatory. So it does no harm, expresses a basic human instinct, brings people together, models democratic discourse, which I'll use a little bit more of that, contributes to education and literacy, sparks economic revitalization, and influences how we think and feel about our lives. Okay, so in addition to theater, of course, we have music and dance, and a lot of our productions, we combine all 3 of those elements, as you just saw. We do musical theater is what TMCC has been really known for, has established a reputation for. And of course, that includes theater, music, and dance. Here's another quote for you from Confucius: "Music produces the kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without." And I think that is pretty apt. I mean, who doesn't listen to music? Who doesn't enjoy music? And then another quote from Michael Jackson: "To live is to be musical, starting with the blood dancing in your veins." Everything living has a rhythm, right? We all have that pulse. Okay, so within the performing arts program, we have some degree programs, and here they are right here. We have, within dance, we have an AA Associate of Arts degree. Music has an Associate of Arts as well as a Certificate of Achievement, and that's a 30-credit degree, which, sort of half of an Associate of Arts degree. Musical theater and theater both have AA degrees and then a certificate in theater as well. And so here are some stats for you, declared majors. You can see that these numbers are not particularly high. Of course, dance stands out as particularly low. And one of the reasons that we have made the commitment to Dana here, this is the first time TMCC ever in its history has had a full-time tenured or tenure track dance faculty position. And so we made the commitment to grow our dance program, and that's why we've hired Dana, and she's just absolutely awesome. And these are duplicated head counts, which means that somebody who's a declared major in dance might also be a declared major in musical theater, for example. And then here are some stats that are even less impressive, quite frankly, our graduates in these areas. And this is over the last 6 years between 2012 and 2018. So combined across those 6 years, you can see we only have 29 graduates in our program. So I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That just is what it is. And quite frankly, our performing arts program has never been about graduates or degree-seeking students. It's been more about providing those skill sets for students who are in other degree programs. And if you look at, I'll come back to that later. If you look at the number of students that are in the performing arts classes, we have a lot of them. We have strong FTE, strong enrollment numbers in these programs. But most of those students are not actually declared majors, right? They're learning about theater, learning about music as a part of some other degree program. The other thing that I really want to drive home the point with performing arts is that we serve the community in other ways in addition to academically. In other words, the theater productions that we've been doing for years and years serve the community. It's a connection to the community. We have over 1,000 typically for any theater production we do. We have over 1,000 folks in the community to come and see that musical production or that play. The children's theater programs that we've done, when we run those productions, we can have upwards of 2,000 students in the K-12 system coming to see those productions, or we come to them. So we can't just look at the stats here, the enrollment stats and the graduation stats when we're thinking about the value that performing arts brings to the community and to TNCC. All right, so visual arts. The other half of visual and performing arts is visual arts. This is all student work that you're seeing on the board here. So within visual arts, we have graphic arts and fine arts. Here's some graphic arts work. There, by the way, is our brand new athletics logo. I saw Tina here. There she is, our new athletics director. All student work. The athletics logo was designed by a student in our program in one of my classes, actually, at the beginning of this semester. In fact, Wizard, the original logo, Wizard, was also designed by a student in our graphic arts program several years ago. Here's another quote for you for visual arts. One of my favorites. I have this up on my website. One of my favorite authors, Tom Robbins, who's written lots of good fiction in my mind. But Life of the Individual, an aesthetic sensibility is both more authentic and more commendable than a political or religious one. I'm sharing sort of my personal opinion here. I couldn't help putting that quote in the slide, but hopefully, even if you don't completely agree with that, you can agree that aesthetic sensibility is something else that's a little bit less tangible than your ability to perform triple integrals in calculus equations, but nevertheless equally important. More student artwork right here. The My Art Town poster right here for last year's Art Town was designed by a student in our program. And these are both Addy Award-winning posters over here, designed by our students. The Addy competition is put on by the AI, or the Advertising Association, which is an international contest. The Addies are an international contest. Going faster. I'm a little nervous, actually. It's a lot bigger audience than I was expecting. I'm not unused to talking to groups of people.
You're doing fine.
I'm just trying to go quickly through this. So visual arts, here are the degree programs within visual arts. We have an art history AA degree. We have a fine art AA degree, which is the studio arts, drawing, painting, ceramics, photography. Well, actually, photography is broken out here. It's not really a question. And then we have the graphic arts and media technology degree. And this is brand new, and I want to take just a minute to talk a little bit more about this. Graphic arts has always had an AAS degree. That's an Associate of Applied Science. It's a terminal two-year degree. It's meant to get students the skill sets that they need and get them out and get them hired. And graphic arts, by the way, is probably the most vocational of all of the programs within visual and performing arts. That is a program where the numbers look quite a bit different. We have a lot of declared majors in graphic arts, and we have a lot of graduates in graphic arts. Anyway, just starting this semester, this very semester, we now have a brand new AA degree program, which is a two-year transferable degree, as well as what we're calling an advanced certificate, and this is sort of breaking new ground with NSHE. This is a third-year advanced certificate that builds upon the two-year Associate of Arts degree, and then that third-year certificate leads directly into a Bachelor of Arts degree. And so we are working on a transfer agreement with Nevada State College in Henderson, Nevada, to confer that BA degree. They already have on their books a visual arts degree. They're creating an emphasis that matches our degree program. And the intent here is by next year we will have this in place, and students will be able to get, staying in Reno, the full four-year Bachelor of Arts degree in the Graphic Arts and Media Technology program. So it's a very, very cool thing. And so far, our enrollments are fantastic this semester in the program. And then we have photography as well, as already mentioned. So here's the declared majors for the visual arts. And you can see that art history is not too high here. Fine arts is reasonable. Graphic arts is is quite a bit higher. And again, this is because this is a dedicated degree program that students can sign up for and actually get that degree in. It's not like the arts and the fine arts degrees or classes where the students are probably going to get a degree in something else. And then here are the graduates, and you can see that the graphic arts graduates is reasonably high. In fact, I think we're second highest degree program in terms of consistent graduation. Somebody can check the stats on that, but that's my recollection. Okay, so here are the enrollments. Here's the number of students that we actually have in our classes. And you can see that the stats look quite a bit more impressive here. 1,700 students, and this is over the last calendar year. This is last semester and this semester. So one calendar year, 2018, 1,700 students enrolled in art, 350 in dance, graphic arts, 510, music 861. So that's a lot of students that we're serving. That's 4,000 students or 4,000 students in seats in our classes that are being served by visual and performing arts. And then I thought I would also list, I was trying to give you all some practical information. So here are the high enrollment classes for the last calendar year and the number of students in each of those classes. So for example, Art 100, which is our intro level art class, 270 students served last semester in this. Drawing Intro to Photography. In the theater class and the music class at the bottom there, you can see here's where the numbers start looking impressive for our performing arts program. These are very high numbers. And then I also thought, well, I don't know if the people in this room would be able to really put that into context very well. So I thought, well, I'm going to go see what UNR offers, and just to give you something to compare those numbers to. And so for all of those numbers that are in the list that I just showed you, here are and this is just for this current semester. So it's the same list of courses I just showed you, but just for this semester. And I just got these numbers by going to UNR schedule and seeing how many sections of these classes they are offering, because that's the only stats that I have access to from UNR. So these are class offerings. So the numbers are not exactly the same as the last slide, but I thought it would be worth giving you this just as to put those numbers into context. So you can see that Art 100, for example, UNR offers or has more capacity to run that class than we do. And you could probably estimate that the actual number of students is going to be, 70, 80, 90% of the capacity, right? Assuming that those classes are about that full. But you can see that Art 101, we offer almost more than three times as many students. That class, Art 141, which is the photography class, we are teaching quite a bit more of that. So really the intent of this is just to show you that compared to UNR, our big brother or big sister, I'm not sure if they're our brother or sister, but anyway, they, with the exception of the music class down there, Music 121, where they're much higher than we are, and that's because they can teach in lecture halls with a very large number of students in each class. Aside from that, we are serving our community very well in these particular visual and performing arts classes. All right, just a little bit more information here before I wrap this up. We did a fundraiser just a few weeks ago, and I wanted to just throw that out to you all to make sure you knew about it, because it was a great event. This was mostly put on by our foundation people. Stephanie and did a fantastic job on this. But we brought in a guest speaker, Ian Wright, who is a BBC photographer and sort of grew up around the Beatles, took photos of the Beatles in their very first concerts. And we did a photo auction of some of his original photographic prints. And we had a silent auction of a lot of student artwork. We brought in the concert band, the TMCC concert band, and theater students dressed up like the Beatles in the Sgt. Pepper's costumes. And then Great Basin Brewery brewed a special beer for our president. At her request, she requested a peaches and cream beer, and so that's what they did for us. And they unveiled it at this event. And the beer labels were designed, the beer label, I should say, was designed by our students. This is a picture of the beer. This is just a screen capture of the Great Basin Brewery's Twitter feed right here where they're talking about, you guys can't read that, I'm sure, but it says we partnered with Professor Marston in his graphic communications class at TMCC to create a student-designed label for our collaborative brew. And so there are some of the label designs. We did this as a contest in one of my classes. We had 23 different labels. The winning label is the top, second from the left there. And you can actually go track that beer down in Rayleigh's right now. And it's got, I should have put a close-up of the beer label in there, but it's got an old pickup truck and it has TMCC on the tailgate. It's got the Great Basin logo on the side of the door. And in the back, there's a big peach and some cream and some hops and some barley. And it's looking out over the Reno skyline with Mount Rose in the background. It's a very cool piece of artwork. So this was a great event. I think it went really well, and I think we raised some good money for the department. All right, upcoming events in visual and performing arts. Our fall musical production, which you just got a little taste of, The Wedding Singer, is running right now. It runs through the end of next weekend, next Sunday. Go and check it out if you have a chance. The TMCC Concert Band, which played at the Beatles and Beer event I just mentioned, is doing its final concert on December 4th. The TMCC Concert Choir is doing its last performance of the semester on December 12th. The Spring Theater production, which is, of course, is next semester, we're doing Almost Maine, and that will run in April. And then we're doing a spring dance concert, which we've never done before, but now that we have a dance instructor, we're doing that, and that will be in April. Okay, so looking ahead for visual and performing arts, what have we got on the horizon? What are we sort of working toward here? So as I already mentioned, for dance, we are really trying to expand the program. There are a lot of small dance studios in this town. The demand is there for dance instruction, and so we're expanding that. In fine arts, we're working on revising the photography emphasis, and we're also looking at realigning some of our course offerings with UNR. It's a constant challenge to get our courses that we teach at TMCC to align with the courses that are taught at UNR in their first 2 years. But we're taking that challenge on. It's an ongoing challenge, frankly. In graphic arts, we have the new degree, which I just mentioned, the third-year certificate. We will start teaching classes in that third-year certificate in the spring, actually. The very first 300-level GRC class will be running this spring. The Bachelor of Arts degree, we're updating the transfer agreement. We'll have that in place next year. We just opened up a brand new stop-motion animation lab, which the students are absolutely all over. They're loving it. Stop-motion is like frame-by-frame animation where you set up a scene, a little miniature scene, you take a photo of it, and then you move something in it, and then you take another photo, and then you move something again. And students, and we just built this over the summer, and we're promoting the heck out of this, actually. In fact, where I'm going next is the Career Expo that's at the Convention Center right now that the Washoe County School District is doing yesterday and today, and they're busing every single middle school student from all the Washoe County middle schools are bused to this event and to explore career options. And we have a booth set up there, and stop motion animation is something I don't have to explain to them. They all know what that is. And then for theater and music, new certificates for theater tech and musical engineering, those are on the horizon for us. We are also moving out of our performing arts space, which you may know about. We've decided we're not going to renew the lease on the RPAC Center, and so we'll be out of there. Next semester, the spring semester, will be our last semester in there. And so we're collaborating with Washoe County School District and with the community spaces, Reno Little Theater, for example, probably for doing some productions until the East Center is built, because that's ultimately our goal here. We are looking forward to being in the East Center. So that process, I think, has been really collaborative. We have Performing Arts PATF, Performing Arts Task Force. We're meeting pretty regularly to sort of work out our strategy for the next several years about what we're going to do to keep teaching the classes, keeping the programs viable, and then working within the community, working within the school district, possibly even working with UNR. That's not off the table yet. for sort of connecting to our community a little bit better in the productions that we do. So this is sort of an opportunity for us to sort of reset our program and take a look at what works and what doesn't work, and connect to the community as well as we can until the EAT Center is up and running, which we really, really hope is going to happen as soon as it can. That's all I have. Does anybody have any?
Thank you, Professor Motion. I believe Dr. Hilgerson has a few comments and questions, and then we'll open up questions to the rest of the council.
So first of all, I wanted to thank you for your wonderful presentation, and especially the musical part with the singing and the dancing. It was great. I had the opportunity to attend the Wedding Singer on opening night. It's a really fun show with wonderful vocals, and I think you heard a little bit of that today. So I hope you can make that show. A couple of things. On the dance faculty, one of the reasons that was approved is because the University of Nevada, Reno has recently begun a bachelor's in dance. And so one of our roles as a community college is making sure that we respond to the needs of the local university. And because what we don't want to have is a community college student who can't get prepared to be a junior in a program like dance at UNR. And so just as part of the reason why that was sort of an easy one to approve and move forward on is we're trying to be really responsive to the programming at UNR as well, so that it all works seamlessly, right? Yeah. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I really believe one of the reasons why it's difficult to graduate some of the majors in the performing arts is because our theater is currently located on Keystone and 4th, and some of the IAC members might not realize that that's several miles from campus, not in the best part of town. A serious theater major has an expectation that the theater is at one of the campuses. This one really isn't at one of the campuses. It is a leased space. It runs approximately a couple $100,000 a year when you get all the utilities and all of that. I'm extremely pleased that the task force has made some really excellent recommendations, and we're doing our part by taking those recommendations, and it's great that they're willing to do with less so that we can put more money towards the EATS facility. And I predict that the graduation rates will start going up in those particular majors when the theater is located at the main Dandini campus. The last thing I wanted to mention is that the beer is not sweet. It's aged in a bourbon barrel. It's quite rich and delicious. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hilgerson.
As a longtime beer drinker, I can confirm that it is actually a very complex and very nice beer. Yeah.
And I would just also like to add that Edon actually worked with Professor Marston and his team to create a Pathways to Education and Careers flyers, and we had about 8 submissions from his graphic arts team, all of which were fabulous, and any one of them would have been perfectly great to be able to use for our campaign. So we've firsthand seen the great work that you and your team do, and it was a pleasure working with you. Are there any other questions or comments before we move on to our next agenda item from the members of the
I'd just like to
council?
make one comment, if I could, as the new dean of liberal arts, and that is the work that Ron's department's doing may have some of the most concrete outreach into our community. And I don't know that we always quantify it as well as we experience it as a community. And so I would just want to really, really point out that is precisely the sort of, I'm always amazed at how often it's one of our students' work that's being featured at Art Towns, one of our students' work, and we're doing it on a shoestring. And we're about to do it on an even smaller shoestring in the anticipation of having a space of our own that's going to be right on campus. And I don't know how well people understand the function of fine arts and liberal arts in a BA, BS system. And it's a service department, okay? It needs to be understood not only in terms of its graduate numbers, but as a service department. Every student through UNR or UNLV has to take a certain number of fine arts credits. And as you can see from the comparison, working artists, working musicians, and working actors are doing a tremendous amount of work in terms of meeting the general education requirements for future and current UNR students. So I just want to sort of put that context out there, that it's beyond the graduate numbers, way beyond the graduate numbers. You really need to focus on the service side of this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the members of the council? All right, thank you very much for a
Thank you
wonderful
all so
presentation.
much for your time.
Really
Have a great
appreciate
day,
it.
everyone.
Now, we are moving on to agenda number 5, which is the president's update. Dr. Hilgerson is going to provide some information on the groundbreaking ceremony, accreditation, and the calendar. So,
Yes, okay, so, and I will be brief. Groundbreaking ceremony is scheduled for November 27th. This is the groundbreaking for the Sports and Health Complex. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later on today. And I think it is at 9:30 a.m.? Is that correct? So you are all invited, 9:30 a.m. Details forthcoming November 27th. The other thing that occurred in October is we had our mid-cycle accreditation visit. We had 3 visitors at our campus, and they were looking at 2 things. One visitor was looking at our new bachelor's degrees, and we received the draft report, and it's a draft because the commission actually votes on this at the NWCCU later on in the academic year. Extremely high marks and kudos on the way in which we have planned and implemented our bachelor's degrees. So that was marvelous news. We also had 2 visitors who were analyzing our progress on some of the recommendations made at the 7-year visit, which occurred in spring of 2006, fall of 15. Thank you. It was before my time. But I have been an evaluator for the NWCCU, so I know how stressful that must have been for TMCC, because there's just a lot of sharing and information and making sure that we're meeting all of the standards. And there are 14 standards, I think. At one point in my career, I had this memorized, so I need to rememorize that.
Standards with multiple substandards.
Okay, very good. And so I think that the draft that we received shows that we have made sufficient progress on all of the areas. We still have some work to do, and I think that as the next couple of months unfold, we will be strategically deciding how to resolve some of the concerns. One of the concerns was that our strategic plan, and they complimented the plan, but they said you have too many indicators. So we have too many ways in which we intend to measure the success of the plan. We have 80 indicators. And the we want to make sure we're doing a good job. But the accreditors have said, no, that is way too many, cut them way back. So we will be working with the appropriate committees and councils and figuring out which indicators we don't need to have, which indicators we will keep, and maybe there are some new indicators that are more general that can take the place of a handful of indicators. So that was probably the number one takeaway that we received. We also have some more work on the general education assessment to do. I think if I were to paraphrase, I would say that they said, you've done a great job making some significant improvements in the last 2 years, but you still need to try to figure out a way to make those changes more pervasive throughout the institution. Would you say that's a good paraphrase, Melissa Dedman? Yes, okay, good. So we will work on that, but overall, it went very well, and I am very pleased. And we will continue to do our work and make the NWCCU even more satisfied with our performance here at TMCC. The other thing I should mention is that we'd like to have a discussion at probably our next meeting, if we don't have time today, on our calendar. Currently, we have been meeting 4 times a year, so quarterly meetings. They're publicized way in advance, as you know, so because I know how busy most of you are, all of you are. And so the question before you is, do we want to have more meetings that are shorter in duration? Right? So do we want to have 8 meetings a year that are 90 minutes in length, for example? Do we want to stay with the current configuration where we meet quarterly, but we meet for longer time periods? Are most of you still okay with the Friday time? We do know that a couple of members are having some conflicts on Friday. So that's the other thing that's open. So I presume that feedback can be sent a couple of ways. It can be sent to the new chair who will be elected later today, or they can be sent to Lisa Farmer if you've got some suggestions. We just need to figure out how to make this determination in a way that doesn't make it harder for you to get here and participate in the IAC, but makes it convenient for all of you. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, great. A couple of little things. The EATS architects are doing their work. They have narrowed the site location down to 2 locations on Dandini's campus. They are conducting in-depth site reviews, and we look forward to sharing with you more progress and more updates when they complete that work. And they will also be communicating with the building users and the campus community about those 2 sites pretty soon. And finally, you had asked in the past for some work on a data dashboard. We're still working on it, so we hope to have something for you at our next meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Moving on to my update, we have 3 new members that have joined the IAC. 2 of them are absent today. Sesh Kamuri, Dr. Sesh Kamuri will be joining us at the next meeting, as will Steve Reed. Steve Reed is from one of our logistics companies in town. And we have 1 new member that is here with us today. So I'd like to welcome BJ North. BJ is the Executive Vice President and Chief Banking Officer for Plumas Bank. And BJ, do you have anything you'd like to say? Hello to the IAC.
I'm delighted to be here. I have a lot of love for TMCC. I have always said it's the hidden gem of Nevada. And having spent 4 years here of my career, it's great to be back and to see so many familiar faces. The performing arts, just to comment on that, when I am looking for team members to hire, one of the things I look for is the creativity that performing arts brings to that holistic approach in business. And so this program has always been dear to my heart, and I'm excited to see them get the attention that they need, get the building that they need, and we really need to fund this because they do great work. And it's just great to be back, and thank you for inviting me to be on this council. I'm really excited to be here.
Happy that you could be a part of it. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7, we are going to be getting an update on the internship program. This is coming to us via Estella. There she is. And she's also going to be introducing the Career Center staff, Sydney Sullivan and Marcy Iana Cioni, to present. So,
good morning, Estella. Good morning, Estella Gutierrez, Vice President of Student Services and Diversity. So happy Friday, and go Lizards, right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Go Lizards. I don't know, I want to say Mighty Lizards? Okay, go Mighty Lizards. It's my pleasure to introduce Sydney Sullivan, who is the program manager for Career Center. But before I have her come up, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. So the internship program is just one piece of item within the Career Center. And so Sydney is going to go over that. It's been in the Career Center for 4 years, and I'm happy to announce that all of our internships are pretty much paid internships. So we went from unpaid to paid. And so just as a side note, you all know how important we are a community college. So this is very important when it comes to the development of the student, and especially when it comes to work experience. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sydney Sullivan.
Thank you very much. Sydney Sullivan, I'm the program manager for the Career Center, for the record. And I really appreciate the IAC's inquiry into the internship program and how the IAC might be able to assist. As Estella said, internships is just one piece of the puzzle as far as what TMCC does to help provide work experience, soft skills training, and we'll talk a little bit about those at the end of the presentation on internships. You do have a couple of flyers that I handed out because after I turned in the presentation, I thought, oh no, there's more information that's needed. So we'll talk about those in a couple of minutes. But first, I have a brief video. It's only about 3 minutes. Do we have time for that, Chair McCormick? Okay,
Yes,
and
please.
this is at the Charles River Laboratory, and they have an amazing program with us where they've taken on several of our students for each of the last 3 summers.
The site clerk internship with Charles River Lab is a great opportunity for students to have exposure to the workings of industry related to biomedical science.
Well, the internship program with TMCC is a great partnership for us. This is the second year that we've partnered with TMCC, and it's a great way for us to find students who are talented and who are ready to be in the workforce. Out of the 5 students that we had last year for our internship program, we hired 2 full-time students, so we're super happy with that.
We've had a number of grants that are focused on pipelining students into biomedical science careers. And so some of those grants fund opportunities like summer workshops to bring students up to college ready. Others are bringing them in the lab, getting them lab experience. And so the next step is then taking all of those collective experiences and taking it into the workplace.
We're really proud of the site clerk internship program that we developed with TMCC. As you know, it's getting very competitive in the Reno-Tahoe area to try to find employees. And the site clerk really gives us an in to be able to see who's at TMCC and gives a chance for folks to test out Charles River and see whether it's an atmosphere that they'd like to work in. It gives us a chance to look at folks as well. It gives us a chance to really work with the community college and help influence their curricula a little bit so that they can train people who are ready to come into our workforce.
This program helps us out a lot. It gets in people who can learn the business from the ground up, and then they also get to work with our technicians a little bit. We do some shadowing of the other departments. They get to learn about the behavior department, the veterinary medicine department. They get to speak with scientists that we have. We set up meetings with lab side, technical operations, histology, all kinds of stuff like that. Wherever they're interested, we try and get them a little bit of exposure in all those different departments so they can learn about them too.
Everybody gets along and it's a good work environment, peaceful, even though you're busy.
We are looking for students who are going to sort of take the initiative. So they're interested in getting this experience. They're going to get everything that they can out of it. They're interested in making connections and having exposure to as many different kind of workday experiences as they can. And so it's not necessarily the straight A student. It's not necessarily the student who's always known what they wanted to do. Maybe it's someone who's exploring something different, but they're going to take the initiative. They're going to have good work skills. They're going to have a good work ethic. It's about putting in the effort.
This is really a turnaround story about Charles River, who in the past had participated to a fairly large degree in the internship program, but because of a variety of reasons and changes in leadership, they had really fallen out of that and weren't doing any internships. And so through the work and the collaboration of the Career Center's staff and meetings with Charles River, and really better understanding the direction and the type of students that would be and would not be interested in working at that type of company, they were able to really pivot and then drive success in that program. So that's just an example of what it took to really get to a place where we have a great story to tell, and that program just keeps continuing to grow, and I know that they're very happy with it. So I just wanted to congratulate you and your team on that, because it really was a turnaround, and it was a great recovery, and now the program's growing. So great job on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Charles River Laboratory, just by virtue of the work that they do, it is a very good fit for some students, and for some students it's not. And we had a little bit of a learning curve on that, but it has been a very successful relationship, and so we're very excited about that. Just a couple of comments from one from an employer and one from a student. We have 83 employers that we have site agreements with, and our students who do participate in our internship programs get enormous value from that, and our employers do too. This one, for example, from the Reno Police Department, Andy is without question the best intern we've had, highest work ethic, character, and dedication amidst rigorous work guidelines and deadlines. So again, something that they can put on their resume and be incredibly proud of, and yes, the students do get copies of these to submit with their job applications. the student also evaluated this and talked about how this is one of the greatest decisions he ever made, and that he really looks forward to working with them in the future, and was really thankful for the opportunity. It really is an amazing, amazing opportunity for students, and we all know that. We're here, we believe in internships, absolutely. One of the things, though, that I think we lose sight of, if I can direct your attention to the flyers, we have the internship definition there. It's the one with the 2 slides on it. Everybody got that? And this is something that, as I said, we all believe in. These courses integrate classroom study with hands-on experience to allow students to use their education and training in actual real-world work environments to gain industry. We know the value. However, TMCC students are not necessarily UNR students. And if you look at the second half of that, 72% of our students, our enrolled students, are not full-time. This is on the flyer in front of you, the second half there. 72% of our students are not full-time. And we don't have any data on this. We do not collect whether our students are working when they enroll or not, but we assume that they are not full-time because they have life obligations. They're working. They have families. And so for a student to do this, there are some considerations. The cost of the internship. A 3-credit internship costs a student almost $350 because they have to pay for the credits. The students also have to figure out how they're going to fit that time in there. So for a 3-credit internship over a 15-week semester, that's about 10 hours a week. And for some students, that's not the easiest thing to fit in. Now, again, we are a community college, and like in all things, we try to serve all students to the very best of our ability. So again, internships are just one piece of the puzzle, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The other thing we're finding more this year than in past years, the employer investment, when employers are so desperate for employees right now, to take on essentially a very part-time student, put in the training that they would for a regular employee for someone who's essentially temporary, that can be a little bit of a hard sell as well. Now, again, we know that the students who do this have really great success. And I'm happy to say that even though the pay rates in the community have gone up and up, and it's been a little more difficult to compete with that because the intern salaries generally are not as high as our entry-level positions that are out there, we've stayed pretty consistent. And again, most of these are now paid. When we started, I think 2 of our internships were paid, and now most of them are paid. I think we only had 1 last year that was not. And we're not done this year, and I did this on the calendar year. We do have some opportunities for winter as well that we have not filled. You asked specifically for suggestions in expanding our internships. If you have internships to offer to students, please let us know. Give us as much information as you can so that we can go out to our faculty and to our classrooms and talk about those. If you are in contact with faculty or academic advisory boards, please mention how important internships are so that it's top of mind. And if you happen to have a funding source that can help us fund interns at nonprofits and government agencies that really can't afford it. And with our new social work degree, this is one of the things that we have a lot of students saying, I really want work experience in this. And unfortunately, a lot of our nonprofits can't really afford to pay those interns. Gretchen's in the back and would be happy to help figure out how to get that money to those students. Our current internship openings, and we are right at the beginning of registration for our winter session and for our spring session. These are the ones we currently have listed. If you would like to add to this list, please let me know. We met with the academic advisors yesterday in their staff meeting with flyers for students so that as students are registering, they are aware of these opportunities. And then if I can direct your attention to the other flyer that I gave you that says opportunities. Again, as a community college, we try to serve students where they are. And so, as I said, internships are one piece of the puzzle, but certainly not the entire picture. Internships, we have a transferable internship called IDS 299. It's an interdisciplinary internship that does transfer within NCHE. We also have discipline-specific internships, automotive, diesel, community health science, that may or may not be transferable. Clinicals and practicums for the last academic year, 2017-18, we had 885 students in classrooms in the community. That's the duplicated count. And we had over 650 individuals that were out in the community during clinicals and practicums, mostly in our health science programs. We had a work experience pilot that's going on right now, where these are not students at the end of their degree program. These are students actually in their second semester. This is for one particular employer who has a whole variety of options, and we have 5 students there paid for a 100-hour work experience to figure out what they want to major in. They were unsure. They didn't know. These came out of our Summer Bridge cohort, and they are first-generation low-income students. And from the feedback we're getting both from that employer and from the students is so far it's been absolutely amazing. We are working with our student workers. We have annually between 275 and 300 student workers per year, which for us is wonderful because when they need coaching, we're right there. It's a really nice partnership, and especially for some of our special populations who may have a few more barriers. It's really nice because we know their supervisors as well. We see them in the cafeteria, and we can say, hey, how is Jane Smith doing? Can I help with anything? And we are working with special populations. We have our Career Connect students who are students with disabilities. We have our Justice Involved students that we're working with. We have our low-income students that we're working with, our first-generation students that we're working with in a variety of programs in order to make sure that they have work experience. And one of those has really turned into a really amazing project. You have a booklet in front of you. And I'm sorry, I left mine. And this is what we call, thank you, the Career Success Booklet. And this is based off of the National Association of Colleges and Employers, who did a survey of the 8 competencies that successful employees need. And I remember about 2 years ago, Kali Hutter was talking about how you can have all the hard skills in the world, but if you don't have those soft skills, you're not going to be the best employee and you're not going to make it. So soft skills such as technical communications, being a team player, understanding what leadership actually is, intercultural competency. And this, we just started this last summer after a lot of research, and we do this either in a workshop format or in an individual format. And we started with this with our Career Connect students who need a little extra assistance. And we go through these and explain what they really are, and those students pick 2 or 3 things that they really want to concentrate on, that they really want to build their skills in. And we come up with activities that they can do, whether it's job shadowing, whether it's doing some research, whether it's being part of a volunteer opportunity in order to build these skills. And it really gives them a really good answer to that, what is your weakness, what are your weaknesses interview question, because now it's no longer a weakness. We've tried very, very hard to work with our students where they are. And internships, while we absolutely believe in them and we absolutely understand the value, they're not the only way to get work experience. Apprenticeships are another thing TMCC does that I did not add to the list. And I'm sure there's a myriad of other things that I have forgotten. Our curriculum and our programming in the Career Center is guided by a Career Center advisory board made up of employers, students, and faculty. And it's a lot of fun. We have a meeting actually coming up this Wednesday where we talk about what are we seeing in the community, what are we seeing with our students, and our students out of that meeting actually become some of our best ambassadors for the programming. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in sending someone from your organization, you're absolutely welcome. So
that's my presentation. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
I believe Dr. Hilgerson has a few comments, and
I just wanted to say thank you, Sydney and your team. I think the Career Center is a great resource. I also wanted to say that I am typically anti-paper because I really want to be sustainable, but this is one of the coolest publications I've seen in a long time. I think it's wonderful that you have this tool and you can sit down and converse and coach our students on some of these skill sets. So kudos. This is a great little publication, and this is the first I've seen it too, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
great, thank you very much. And we appreciate your presentation, and I encourage all of the IAC members to really give some thought to how they can take advantage of the internship program, contribute to funding for internships for students, and also participate with the apprenticeship programs as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item number 7B, and after that point, we will likely take a break. So I would like to invite Nate McKinnon, Vice Chancellor of Community Colleges, up to make a presentation to provide us with an update on the Nevada Promise Scholarship Program, which we all know is a great opportunity for students to take advantage of the education opportunities in the region. So thank you, Nate.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Morning.
Come on, TMCC. Good morning.
Morning.
All right, thank you. It's always good to be here with you, my favorite college in Washoe County. And so, just such a delight. And I want you to know, I apologize for being a few minutes late today, but I want you to know that the Dandini campus is in great shape. There's plenty of parking right now, and the freeway is clear between here and there, which is embarrassing since I live right over there. So read your calendar, Nate, and that won't happen again. And I also want to say thank you for that opening, the musical act. I think in my 16 months on the job here, that is definitely wins for most entertaining opening to an IAC meeting, so much appreciated. We have 3 of our regents here today, and so Regent Geddes, Regent Del Carlo, and Regent Carter, thank you for coming, and apologies because you'll see this presentation again at the Community College Committee meeting coming up at the end of this month, so I appreciate your indulgence for that. Also, congratulations to Regent Del Carlo for winning re-election earlier this week. I wasn't gonna mention that part, but you did. So, okay. So I'm very delighted to talk to you today about the Nevada Promise Scholarship. For those of you who may not be familiar with the scholarship, it is a scholarship that's in its now first year for students actually enrolled in our institutions. It is for community college students who are coming directly out of high school, and it is a scholarship that is a last dollar program, and there are individual requirements for each student, and that includes applying by October 31st of the senior year in high school. It includes meeting with a mentor, and we're going to talk about that briefly. It includes completing 20 hours of community service, completing a FAFSA in a timely manner, as well as all follow-up documents, and attending 2 trainings, one in the fall and one in the spring, offered by the institution. So today what we're going to report on is some data on the first cohort of students who are now enrolled at TMCC and other institutions, our other community colleges. And we're also going to take a look at the applicants that just completed their applications for next year. And that includes both new applicants who are seniors in high school, as well as applicants that we call returning applicants who are current students at their respective community college receiving the Nevada Promise Scholarship. So let's take a quick look here. So this is our student progress. So last fall, we had a blitz to get the application up and running and see how many students we could get to apply from the high school. And if you remember, that number was about 12,200 in total across the state, which is a very impressive number. So this is based on the actual applicant cohort. We knew there would be significant melt. And so what you're looking at here is this is just the applicants who completed the requirements, and I want to make it clear that doesn't necessarily mean they got the money. These are applicants who completed the requirements of the program. They may not have needed the money, and that's why they wouldn't have gotten it, so we'll get to that in a minute. But when we look at this, the blue bar is enrolled in 12 credits or more. The orange is enrolled in less than 12 credits, and the gray is not enrolled. So what you see here is for the students who actually went through and completed all of their requirements, they were very likely to enroll in 12 or more credits, compared to very small numbers, the orange, and at TMCC it's 0, as well as at WNC enrolling in less than 12 credits. So I think this is a great news story for our students. These are now, it's fall 2017 applicant cohort, so they are now enrolled in the fall 2018 as freshmen at their respective institutions. So our applicants not completing all NPS requirements, and you can tell with numbers like this on that first slide, and I told you there was 12,200, that we did have some serious melt along the way of students who didn't quite make all the way to completing their requirements. And remember, those requirements were, they had to apply, and if they didn't apply, they're not part of this at all because this is our applicant pool. They then had to attend a training last fall before the end of the calendar year, and then meet with a mentor at least once in the spring, attend a second training, complete all financial aid requirements, and apply to the institution. And so students who did not do that, we can see that there are still quite a few, particularly at CSN, but also at TMCC, who applied for Nevada Promise, still enrolled in 12 or more credits, but just didn't complete all of the steps along the way. So that's lessons learned for us that next year we got to make sure that number goes down and the other slide's number goes up, with more students actually, if they fill out that application, taking all of those steps along the way to do that. And we're currently engaged in some research on student behaviors, some qualitative research with our friends at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, on the students who applied and maybe what some of their reasons were for not completing all of the steps throughout the process. So TMCC here, that number is about 1,136 students. These are students who applied last fall but did not complete the requirements and are not enrolled. So they may have just applied and not actually intended to follow through with it because they, along the way, decided they were going to go to another institution. And that's okay. We hope that's the reason and not that they're just decided they didn't want to go to college anywhere. And so we also want to try and reduce that number for next year as well. So for those applicants who are completing all of our NPS requirements, and these are students who actually did it, so if we look at the percentage of applicants, the blue bar is CSN, the orange is Great Basin College, the gray is TMCC, and the yellow is WNC. So again, the percentage of students here that you can see, so here at TMCC, just about 18% of applicants that completed all of their requirements enrolled in 12 or more credits. And that's 18% of the original applicant pool. Okay, so that's out of the number of the 12,000 students. This is the respective amount by institution that actually are enrolled in 12 or more credits who did complete all of the requirements. And you can see, again, completing all of the requirements clearly showed a motivated student who was planning to attend and attend at full-time status of 12 credits, which is what the bill requires. And that's 12 credits or more. We hope they're actually enrolled in 15 credits or at least doing 30 a year, but the bill requires 12 or more to be able to receive the scholarship. For the applicants not completing all of the requirements, it is, as you would imagine, the inverse, right? They are very likely to not even have enrolled at our community colleges at all. These numbers over here show that, ranging from about 57 to up to about 80%. They didn't complete the requirements, but they also didn't enroll in a community college. There are still some students over there who, for all intents and purposes, if they had just done the steps along the way, would have received or could have received the scholarship if they were eligible and in need of it on the left. And so we have to try and next year make sure that gets close to 0 as possible so that for the students who are enrolling and filled out that application, they're doing all of the steps along the way. So let's talk about student need and the actual scholarship itself. So I've been referring to the term applicants this entire time. The way the program works is it's a last dollar payment. That means if you have eligible expenses that are left over after other forms of gift aid, so that includes your Pell Grant, for example, the Silver State Opportunity Grant, the Millennium, to name a few. And so if you as a student had all of that you were eligible for applied and still owed the college for full-time enrollment $1,100, the Promise Scholarship would step in. Maybe it's only $75. Maybe it's the full amount because you didn't have very much gift aid at all. The scholarship fills in there. So for our students here, the blue bar is actually received Nevada Promise Scholarship money, and the orange is eligible expenses are fully covered. So this is of our applicants who completed all the requirements and enrolled in 12+ credits from last fall and are now this fall enrolled. You can see here that the blue bar, so 456 students received money at CSN versus 221 who actually did everything but didn't need the money from the scholarship for eligible expenses. And I want to be clear, when I say for eligible expenses, what that means is what the bill allows to be covered. That doesn't mean those students didn't necessarily need more money for things like textbooks, et cetera, but this bill only allows certain mandatory fees to be covered for these students. So their mandatory fees were fully covered by other sources of gift aid. So at TMCC here, you have 140 students who went through all the steps and didn't actually need the dollars, and about 179 students who received money from the scholarship fund in some form or another. That's anything from $1 from that scholarship fund that wasn't paid up to the full amount. So the actual amount of money that we've dispersed, and I want to be clear, this is for fall semester only. The way our financial aid offices do disbursements is by semester. So this amount, the total amount statewide is $938,167.74 for fall semester, was given to students, 778 students to be exact, from across our institutions. The numbers for TMCC are $212,000 and for 179 students there. And so if you wanted to figure out what the predicted amount for the entire academic year would be, you would double that minus a little. And the reason for that is that we would expect some melt into the spring semester that would occur between now and then. So let's take a look at our applications for fall 2018. I have updated numbers here. So let's cross out 13,223. And the new number, the total, is 14,319. 14,319. Out of that, 13,530 are first-time applicants. So that's an increase of about 1,300 students over last year's number of high school seniors that applied. And that is thanks to some outstanding work at all 4 of our community colleges by the folks on the ground who were really trying to get this message out, work with high schools, work with principals, guidance counselors, talk to parents about it, et cetera. So we are seeing an increase in our over number of applicants. The returning applicant total is, we gained just a few. This is literally, so I want to point out that this was from October 30th, and these numbers are just from yesterday once we scrubbed all the data. And so we added a few more returning applicants to 789 total. The numbers for TMCC are 1,889 new applicants and 280 returning applicants that applied. So that's really great news for TMCC, and is also represents an increase over last year as it does at all of our institutions. So I just want to say how excited I am to be a part of this program and how exciting it is to see what we're doing. We are really, I think, seeing here that this program is encouraging students, for those who complete all of the all of the steps required in the program, they are enrolling in 12 or more credits, by and large. Could we do better? Absolutely, we always could. But you know, this fall alone, just under $1 million of aid that's helping these students to go to college. And the folks at TMCC, in particular, Angela South and the Promise team, should be so proud of the work that they've done on this. And I know we are at the system office, and we're excited to see how this moves forward into this next year. Our goal is to have a higher number of our overall applicants every year actually matriculate into our community colleges. And so I just want to say thank you. And I want to make one more plug, and that is that I mentioned earlier, one of the requirements of this program is for the students to meet with a mentor. That only works when willing and able adults step up to the plate, and that's where all of you come in as members of the IAC. But not just you, your coworkers, your family, your friends. Please reach out to them. Ask them to consider volunteering to become a mentor. It is not a very heavy lift in terms of time. The college will train you as being to be a mentor. You simply need to be able to pass a background check and have a conversation with a high school student or a freshman in college about their plans and their career goals, and helping them think through and talking to them about your own story as well. This is not something that requires a huge amount of knowledge of higher education processes, financial aid, admissions, etc. This is something that requires the ability for students to be able to look up to somebody and ask questions, and every person in this room qualifies for that. And so I'd encourage you all, if you haven't already, to sign up to be a mentor, and please ask your colleagues, friends, and family to do the same. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll take any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for Vice Chancellor?
So, and I don't know if this is better for you to answer, but what percentage of that class is the Nevada Promise Scholarship holder? So of your freshman cohort, how much does that make up? And then secondly, have you seen an increase in the size of freshmen coming in because of the Nevada Promise? In other words, it's obviously allowed more kids to go to a community college that may not have been able to afford it.
I'll start with the second question, and the answer is yes. I think that one of the reasons why we have an uptick in enrollment this term is because of Nevada Promise. So yay, which is terrific. But the first part of the question, I don't know if Elena has a specific percentage. If she does, maybe she'll.
What is the size of your freshman class?
So I can tell you this, we recruit about 1,000 students from Washoe County School District on an annual basis. I think that's correct. I hope I'm remembering that correct. But remember, we also get a lot of students who are between the age of 24 and 44. And so Nevada Promise at this point in time only applies to high school seniors. So, but Elena probably has the percentage now? Want to come up to the mic? Or? I think, so does that begin to answer the question?
I'm just trying to get a sense of whether it's adding to your cohort overall.
I think the short answer is yes, but I think the other part that I really appreciate about the program is that I think it's starting to close that gap of Nevadans who have been opting out of higher education right out of high school. I think that for many of our kids, this is just what a few of them needed to make a really smart decision to access public higher education. But I think Elena has a very specific percentage, perhaps.
Elena Bobnova for the record. Definitely, the Nevada Promise scholarship recipients contributed quite strongly to the incoming class of fall 2018. So we had an overall increase of about 13% in our incoming freshman class, and a bulk of it definitely can be attributed to the Nevada Promise scholarship recipients. So they all come in and carry a full-time load. So we ended up actually 1% up in enrollment this semester, and it definitely is thanks to the Nevada Promise kids coming to TMCC. So it's really a significant source of enrollment increase for us.
Great, thank you.
And I would add, Nate McKinnon for the record, the other thing for the students who actually completed all the requirements, so 319 are attending full-time. And you heard in the internship presentation about the percentage of students at TMCC that are part-time. And we average about 75% part-time enrollment across our 4 community colleges. It would be great if a program like this, if one of the outcomes were, in the long run, lowering that part-time number and increasing the full-time number, because we know that when a student attends full-time, they're far more likely to complete their degree.
No, and I just think, first year out of the gate, this is very encouraging, because it'll get, you'll see a lot of improvement, I'm sure, with time, as you figure out how to work with the kids and make sure that, they're doing everything they need to do. I think it's great.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Great, thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Please sign up to be a
being-
mentor, and thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. In light of our busy calendar today, why don't we take about a 10-minute break so we can come back based on that clock at about 10:40. Thank you. Would like to call this meeting back to order, and I'd like to ask Dr. Mergelot-Poor to come up again to make an introduction for our next presentation under agenda item number 8A.
Uh-oh.
Thank you. Once again, Marie Mergelot-Poor, Marie Mergelot, drop the poor, for the record. I'm really pleased to be able to introduce to you Melissa Dedman, who is our Associate Dean for Assessment and Planning. I have to say, because I'm going to be up here one more time today, sorry the rest of you, I have the best job in this institution because I get to work with the most amazing people, and Melissa is one of them. She's a brilliant scientist and a wonderful administrator, and it's my absolute pleasure to be able to work with her. And is Stacy going to be? And Stacy from advising, Stacy Miller is a brilliant advisor and really helps our students be as successful as they are. So it's my pleasure to introduce them to speak to you about the transfer and articulation. Thank you.
Well, thank you and good morning. It's still morning. Yes, it is still morning. We had planned a song and dance for you, but after seeing the Visual and Performing Arts Department, we decided we better just present on transfer and articulation. And for those that have seen me give presentations, you'll notice that I'm often accompanied by academic advising because at TMCC, transfer, advising, those types of subjects that really encompass the academic side of the house and the student services side of the house, we're very much collaborative. So I'm very proud to be co-presenting with Stacy Miller, our transfer coordinator in academic advisement. So we're going to talk to you a little bit this morning about transfer and articulation, and we'll start with some data because I know this body is largely concerned with our CTE side of the house, and that is definitely important. But if we take a look at the data, you'll notice, I'll call your attention to this last column here, that if we look over a 4-year period and we average it out, almost half of our students are transferring. They're either transferring, and this is to UNR, they're either transferring before they graduate or after they graduate. So that suggests we have a population of students that's really looking to transfer by the strictest definition. Right? They're looking to take a class or two and then immediately go to the university, or they're looking to graduate and go on to a bachelor's degree. And in fact, the larger proportion of students appears to be graduating and then transferring. So they are seeking to get a bachelor's degree. And the Nevada system of higher education has recently re-emphasized the importance of seamless transfer through a policy change in the Board of Regents handbook regarding transfer agreements, which says that these agreements have to be collaborative between the faculty of the 4-year and the 2-year institution. They have to result in 0 to minimum loss of credits when a student earns a degree and then transfers over to the university. And that they have to be centered around an 8-semester sequence that a student going full-time could follow, complete an associate's degree at the 2-year college, and then transfer again with minimal credit loss to the university. So we're here to tell you a little bit about the process that the student would go through in terms of transfer. Some of the barriers that we see a student could encounter that either surfaced or were either reinforced in developing this new look of the transfer agreements. And then what we see are some solutions to try and overcome those barriers. So I'll let Stacy.
Good morning.
So some things to consider for transfer students. One of them is that all students have what's called catalog rights. At the community college, students have catalog rights for 6 years, so they can follow the way their degree looks in that catalog for 6 years, regardless if the degree has changed. They don't have to fulfill those changes. As a transfer student, those catalog rights extend to 10 years for the university, from the community college to the university. So as an example, if a student starts at TMCC in fall of 16 and is getting ready to transfer, if they're going to complete their bachelor's degree in a 10-year time, they can follow the fall 16 catalog at UNR, since that's the catalog they started at TMCC. So catalog rights are very important for helping students complete degrees and maybe not have to follow changes to those degrees. There's different types of transfer. The first one's straight transfer, or what Melissa referred to as seamless transfer. We have many of our associate degrees where 100% of the courses within those degrees are going to transfer to UNR or another university within NSHE. And so those are optimal because everything the student takes, it's very much like they're doing their freshman, sophomore year at the community college. We also have a co-admissions process, which you may be more familiar with the term like dual enrollment, where students might be taking the majority of their courses at TMCC, but 1 or 2 classes that only the UNR campus or university offers within their freshman, sophomore year. And then we also have a process called reverse transfer. Students who are very close to finishing an associate degree but meet the qualifications to start at the university will often transfer, and then they'll take those last couple of classes and transfer them back to the community college to still get that associate degree. And we call that process reverse transfer. Students can follow the transfer agreements that we have on their own, especially now with all of the work that's been done to really rearrange them and have them in that 8-semester plan. So it's very clear that students can get the associate degree and transfer and finish in that 8-semester sequence. And students can also transfer without earning the associate degree as long as they meet minimum transfer requirements of at least 24 transferable credits, a 2.5 GPA, and for UNR specifically, they like to see math and English either complete or being able to be taken in their very first semester. We wanted to kind of follow through a student example. This is Jacqueline. She is a biology major. She wants to eventually transfer to UNR. She's on a pre-med track, and how we would work with Jacqueline. So in advising, we like to work with transfer students kind of from their end goal backwards. So in Jacqueline's case, since she is pre-med, we would have conversations about whether she wants to major in biology, biochemistry, nowadays even art or English, as long as they're doing the pre-med courses. And so we would work with her as to what her 4-year goal was, what her bachelor's degree goal was. And then we would work backwards to see, does TMCC have an emphasis in that area? So if she wanted to do biology, do we have an emphasis in biology? Does that line up well with UNR's program and her pre-med track? Or would it be better for her to follow an Associate of Science and maybe the transfer agreement for that particular major? In this particular case, our Associate of Science in Biology does line up very well for a pre-med student. So we would probably advise her to do the emphasis. Students can meet with an advisor. We highly recommend it. The transfer process can be very difficult with lots of specific details, deadlines, lots of changes can happen. And so the more they meet with the advisor, the better. We I mean, I'm from advising, I might be a little biased, but we definitely think that that's a huge part of the process, especially for transfer students. But they can self-advise as well. We do have our transfer agreements with the NSHE schools posted on our TMCC website. Lisa's going to click on the link. So we have links to all of the transfer agreements we have with UNR, UNLV, Nevada State College, and we have transfer agreements as well with Sierra Nevada College. If you would mind, Lisa, clicking on the UNR transfer agreement link, and then maybe just A through L, and just to stay with the biology theme, if you would go down to biology. Just to give you an example of the new format for the transfer agreements, if you could scroll down just a little bit. You can see that they're scheduled now first semester through 8th semester, and they are focused specifically from the TMCC to UNR transfer agreements so that this student is earning an associate degree from TMCC. So they're much easier for the student to follow on their own if they were doing self-advising because they can clearly see what should be completed at TMCC to get that associate degree before transferring. Did you want to point out anything else on the transfer agreements while we have them up? All right. Great. And like I was saying, they can use that for the suggested course sequence. And then, of course, if the associate degree lines up perfectly seamlessly, they can do straight transfer. Some of the transfer agreements will show when there are courses that are only offered at UNR, like engineering as an example. Students can do co-enrollment so that in their freshman, sophomore year, they're completing those courses that are only offered at the university at that level and do dual enrollment to still finish the associate degree and capture all of their freshman, sophomore courses. And of course, with transfer, everything's early. We are encouraging students to be applying to the university up to a year before the semester they want to start there. So right now in October, the fall 19 applications came out for UNR. We're encouraging students to already apply. Most students at the university, as transfer students, they're required to meet with an academic advisor at the university before they can enroll. And so the earlier they apply, get accepted, they're able to meet with that advisor before registration begins, and then they're not registering late for their first semester at the university. And we encourage throughout the whole process at TMCC for students to not only meet with the TMCC advisor, but also the UNR advisor in their major, just so that we're both working with the student from both perspectives so that the student's not missing any important steps.
So some of the potential barriers that either surfaced or were sort of reinforced as we were developing these new format of transfer agreements is that in talking with the four-year institutions, we kind of had to keep reminding them that, you know, this is now, we really need to focus on the degree completion concept, right? That this isn't about a cadre of courses that TMCC offers that is similar or the same courses that the university offers, and that's what the transfer agreement is based about. That the transfer agreement now is based on a student earning that associate level degree and thus having their general education, lower division general education core requirements completed when then entering the university. We encountered a number of degrees at the four-year institutions where they were requiring 300 level courses in the first 2 years. Of course, we're a primarily two-year college, so we don't typically offer 300 level transferable courses, yet alone in the first 2 years. So in a number of cases, we were able to move the university's suggested course sequence around a little bit so that we could move those 300 level courses to the last 2 years when the student was at the university, but not in all cases. So Stacy mentioned, for example, there were times where we had to incorporate the co-enrollment model if the university offered the course in the first 2 years, for courses that they offered but that we didn't in the first few years, but also if it was a 300 level course that we couldn't move around in the sequence because it served as a prerequisite to courses that the students would be needing to take beginning that first year over at the university. So if we were to try and move that 300 level course, that would put the students a semester behind over at the university. Now we have gotten verbal commitment from Vice Chancellor Abba that if we encounter degrees where the university is requiring 300 level courses in the first 2 years, that TMCC can offer those. And in fact, we've had our first such course pass our curriculum review committee, Math 330, linear algebra, correct, Ann? So linear algebra is going to be offered this spring. And linear algebra is part of UNR's math degree, its computer science degree, I believe some of its engineering degrees, where it's listed in the first 2 years of UNR's suggested course sequence. So that will hopefully help our students. Another issue that we sometimes run into is that the four-year institutions are requiring that 50% of the coursework be taken at the university. So even if there's cases, say with laboratories that maybe add a credit or two that could be taken at TMCC, we hit that 60 credit mark sometimes. We go over, I should say, that 60 credit associate degree mark by a couple of units in a few cases. And so, students would be earning 62, 63 credits at the two-year institution before then having to transfer to the four-year institution. We've talked about co-enrollment, and on paper, when developing these transfer agreements, many times we could get it to work. Is it practical, though, is a different story, not just in terms of the logistics of traveling from campus to campus, but also the fact that a student can only declare financial aid at one institution. So where does that leave the student if they're having to take 3 credits of a course or more credits of a course over at the university if they're primarily here at TMCC and getting their financial aid here at TMCC? In looking at the general education requirements, NSHE policy establishes a minimum number of credits in various categories for general education, but they do differ somewhat across the institutions. For example, Great Basin College has a technology requirement that the university doesn't have and that we don't have. We have 3 units of core humanities. The university has 6, and they restrict that humanities to the CH prefix, the core humanities prefix, whereas at TMCC, we offer humanities under more than just the CH prefix. So again, it really emphasizes the importance of a student getting that degree before they transfer so that they don't encounter some of this messaging that says, oh, well, you don't have an additional 3 units of core humanities, you now have to take that. We need to properly have the student self-advocate for the fact that they have the degree and they have that lower division general education satisfied. In developing some of those agreements, we encountered this a little bit with Great Basin College. Just from the way their catalog was displayed, it was difficult to discern whether a general education course was a gen ed requirement or was it a program requirement, a requirement of the degree. And that makes a difference because if it's a program requirement, then a student can't just take any course to satisfy a general education category. They have to take a specific course. As an example, if you're a psychology major, it's required that students take Psychology 101. to satisfy their social sciences and not any course that has been approved for social sciences, which makes sense. And so in some cases, it was difficult to discern when the program required a specific gen ed course or when it was part of the gen ed component. And then there's some timing issues in terms of posting that associate degree, which again notifies the university that if a student transfers with that associate degree, their general education is considered complete. So Stacy mentioned that the students are encouraged to apply to the university almost a year before they actually intend to transfer there. So at that point, they will have sent a transcript to the university. And then, come the end of the term when they graduate, they have to send another transcript showing that the degree has in fact been completed. So that just amounts to an additional step for students to have to go through when they transfer. Part of this last round of the transfer audits conducted by the system office did not include Bachelor of Applied Science degrees. They were only interested at this point in how the Associate of Arts and Associate of Science degrees transferred to BA and BS degrees over at the four-year institutions. But Bachelor of Applied Science degrees, we've been told, are on the horizon. And we do see some potential concerns here. Often our Bachelor of Applied Science degrees are built on stackable AAS, or Associate of Applied Science degrees. And those are often your CTE programs, your very technical programs. As an example, and Dr. Dalpy is here, we are putting forward at the next Academic Affairs Council meeting a Bachelor of Applied Science in Cyber-Physical Manufacturing. That is stackable on our Associate of Applied Science in robotics, automation and robotics. Is that correct, Kyle? That's something we offer fairly uniquely to TMCC. So in terms of transfer, it would be difficult for a student who began at another institution besides TMCC to really be seamless and transfer in that, transfer and complete in the four-year full-time time frame. There's some differences in the general education, according to the Board of Regents handbook, that potentially has to be reconciled if a student is starting at the AAS level. So you can see the differences outlined in the table. Of note, we see we're able to embed math and science. And I've forgotten human relations, haven't I? Yep, Stacy's like, Melissa, come on. So human relations is required of the Associate of Applied Science. It's not a requirement of the bachelor's degree. We can embed credits within math and science. That's good for an Associate of Applied Science degree because we want our students experiencing very applied and hands-on science and mathematics. But at the baccalaureate level, it's a transferable math requirement and science requirement. And in fact, we have 3 additional units of natural science that are required, as well as 6 additional units of credits required in the social sciences / humanities / fine arts. So we have to be very careful when we build our AAS degrees that we build options for the students to earn these bachelor level general education requirements if they know that they're eventually going to work towards the BAS degree and not just stop with the Associate of Applied Science. And so that presents a potential contradiction between some areas in the handbook where Title IV, Chapter 14, Section 15.3a says that if you were in an AAS, you're at junior status. But again, looking at the bachelor of any baccalaureate general education requirements, and we have heard the message that a bachelor's degree is a bachelor's degree is a bachelor's degree. If we have not been very careful in the beginning to incorporate these requirements, they potentially are not yet at junior status when they finish their Associate of Applied Science. But it is not all doom and gloom. We have strategies to overcome these barriers, and I'll let Stacy begin to talk about those. Okay, 2 more slides.
So one of the big things that we do to try to overcome these obstacles to the transfer process is to try to have a consistent messaging for the students, whether we're telling them and advising that an associate degree will waive their general education or provide a core waiver at UNR. We want the UNR advisor to also recognize the associate degree waives the general education and provides the core waiver. So if we have that consistent messaging on both sides, it benefits the student and just helps the transfer process. Fortunately, in TMCC's advising office, we've developed amazing relationships with all of the advising offices in the various colleges and programs at the university. And even through UNLV, in the areas that our students tend to transfer, like architecture or hospitality management, we've developed great relationships with advising in all of those popular programs. And so it really helps to have that consistent message and to have that communication between the programs. Advising is also fortunate enough to have a weekly in-service meeting on Thursdays, and we frequently have UNR advisors and programs come to give us updates, especially if there's going to be degree changes or policy changes. We are right in the forefront of all of that, so we can advise the students correctly, accurately, and then they're not taking classes that they no longer need. And because of those great relationships, not only are we encouraging students to see us, but we're able to make specific referrals to the university. Oh, you're an education major. You need to go over and see Diana Levandino, and she'll, make sure you're transferring properly. Everything's on board. Everything's going to be great for graduation. So it just helps to overcome a lot of the barriers to have that great communication between us and the university.
I think we've talked a lot about the seamless agreements and how those have really been a game changer in terms of transfer agreements. I'm very confident in this initial round that we have put forward between TMCC and UNR and TMCC and Great Basin College. This first round of transfer agreements has focused on north to north agreements and then the south to south agreements. We'll have another year of focus, as I understand, of north to north and south to south, and then following that we will be reaching out to the southern universities, UNLV and Nevada State College, to begin developing agreements with them. But again, it takes a lot of diligence. These have to be updated every year to ensure that we reflect changes that have been made to curriculums and that have changed the degree at both the university level and at the associate level. We can incorporate more transfer and articulation notes within the catalog. And I was recently made aware of an example at Salt Lake Community College. Lisa, if you have a moment to pull that up.
I think we're not going to have time to go through that to the detail to be able to finish our program for today.
Not a problem. To suffice it to say there, they have sort of a description of each of the nuances of transferring to each one of the institutions there in Utah. And being that we only have 7 institutions here at NCHE, I think that's a doable goal. And then looking at our our General Studies Certificate of Achievement, we think we can rework that to be more of a general education core certificate, similar to the IGETC program in California, so that even if students aren't getting the complete associate degree, they will have a core of transferable general education to the university. So with that, I'll take any
Thank you. I
questions.
don't think we have time for questions today. If there are questions, they can be directed to you, and we will make sure that they get answered. Thank you very much for the presentation, and a lot of great work has been done, I can tell. Moving on, I believe we're on agenda item number 9A. And I'm not going to bring Dr. Mergolo up again, I'll go ahead and invite Kyle Dalpy to speak and make a presentation about just a quick update on the manufacturing and logistics programs.
Thank you. Kyle Dalpy, Dean of Technical Sciences. For the record, I will not sing and dance because we don't have time, but also because you have small throwing objects on the table. I don't want you to use them on me. I'm going to talk about two programs. Agenda item 9A, the packet you have has detailed information if you are interested. The Logistics Operation Management Program is in full swing. It's serving a lot of the needs of the local environment to move out the products that we will talk about next in the manufacturing sphere. First graduate was spring of 2018. The first graduate for the BAS, is spring of 2018, with a healthy pipeline behind it. 6 declared majors in the certificate program, 81 in the associate degree program, and we continue to meet the needs of employers with our logistics operations program. One of the programs that's booming and is in my division is the manufacturing program, so I'm going to go through some quick updates. These are the ones I have on the slides. I wanted to note that according to the governor's office, manufacturing is second from the top for a number of jobs grown year to date, right behind construction. That's why we're seeing the boom. We offer, if you look under manufacturing technologies, several different things are lumped in here. Advanced manufacturing, drafting, food processing, machinings, welding, production systems. I'm going to talk to you today pretty much just about advanced manufacturing because that's where we're seeing our significant increases. Number of degrees we offer in all the programs, certificates of achievement and skills certificates. You can see quite a few options for students. This right here is our cyber physical manufacturing lab, Industry 4.0 lab, Internet of Things. We just opened it last month. $750,000, $500,000 from the state, $250,000 from the college through the state CTE funds to open this. This is what Associate Dean Dedman mentioned, our BAS degree, which will be a Industry 4.0 focused cyber physical. If you're at Edison, you need to check this out. This is the next generation. Our manufacturing growth has gone from fall of 17 to fall of 18 with a 68% increase in FTE in 1 year. Alone, the electronic and mechanical classes and the manufacturing production and technology classes, which make up our advanced manufacturing, have gone from about 100 students to more than 700 students in 2 years. Now, the question is why, and I want to make sure you have the why behind it. This is the culprit right here, this little circle here. This is the Tesla, or the battery that goes in the Tesla cars. It is the Panasonic battery. They look like this. I am allowed to have this. It's not a real one. It's just a shell. They're going to make, how many of those? Real quick, that's your question. How many of those are going to make per year of these batteries?
Billion.
A zillion. 3.5 million or so right now. They're looking at 1 billion batteries per year. They need people to produce those, and then they need the logistics people to move them, right? So that's why this is a booming area. Batteries go in the battery module. The battery pack is created from a series of modules. There's 3,300 in the bottom of this module. This goes into the bottom of the car. Our advanced manufacturing students right now, the boom, that is where most of them are going to work right now. So one of the things we're fortunate is we have a Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Labor grant, $3 million grant that has really ramped up on apprenticeships overall, but the numbers are staggering with the advanced manufacturing. Thanks to Cheryl Olson, who's in the back, and her staff, we have submitted a round 2 of this, which we cross our fingers for. We'll know in February. This has caused a boom in our enrollment. Right now, we have apprentices, 438 that are Gigafactory employees. Not all of them are enrolled, but they're soon to be, and then other employers, 25. So we're off and running with that. That's what's helping us with our boom. This is my closing slide, which will sum up the numbers in manufacturing. Total students, 574 right now. 275 of those are coming through the apprenticeship grant, and then there's some other numbers there on where they're specific parts. But the big number there is advanced manufacturing is 574 students this semester. 2 years ago, we only had 75 in fall of 16. And this is one of those things that's, we always like to say the phrase, it's a good problem to have, but I have no parking, I have no space. I didn't really have any instructors this summer. We had to rehire. And so we actually had to cap enrollment in this program this semester, which we are looking for ways to not have to do that in the future. But the boom has helped us move our numbers in advanced manufacturing up 68%. It's helped the entire division go up 11%, and it is involved in the overall college's enrollment going up as well. So with that, a couple other quick notes, and then I'll end and take any questions if the time allows. I think I had 6.5 minutes. I'm not sure how I'm doing. Most of the apprentices that come into the apprenticeship program on that slide, I'll back up one, most, if not all of these, actually probably all of these, are first time to higher education. These are not, of course, they're not high school students, but they're that 24 to an older group that Dr. Hilgerson mentioned. They're the first ones that are accessing higher education, which is good. We continue to look at ways to find training dollars, state and federal dollars, to pay for students to go into our program, and we've been successful at that, but we continue to look at new ways for that and for all of our programs. So with that speedy update, I can take any questions or...
Sure. Does anybody have maybe one question for Dr. Delpy? I will just say that the
just one quick question. When you're talking about your capacity, and you're pretty close to at capacity because of instructors and also space, were there opportunities to grow capacity at the Gigafactory?
So we've looked at different ways to do that, and that's a higher level discussion being had right now. There are ways to do that. One of the tricks we find is that people working 12-hour shifts don't necessarily want to go for a 3-hour class afterward. They'd rather do it on their day off. So we've actually we've done a little bit of a dominoes, TMCC facilities, thank you if anyone's listening. We've done quite a bit to move some things around the building to expand our advanced manufacturing within the Applied Tech Center, and that's how we've managed it this semester. Going forward, if we are successful in getting these grants in February, we're going to see a serious boom next fall, which is good for the college because it's a benchmark year for funding, but it's one of those we'll have to start shuttling people from a remote lot probably, but we will tackle those problems as they come.
And I believe that President Hilgerson has something to add to that.
So quite recently, we held a second conversation that included a developer, employers, TMCC, and UNR on possible options for training much closer to the Gigafactory, but way too early to announce. These are very preliminary conversations, but we are in the process of problem solving. So,
thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Great, thank you. I think we need to move on. One more question, Mr. Backlund.
With the curriculum that you have and looking forward, are you contemplating developing an educational curriculum for training programmers in machine learning and deep learning?
So the answer is yes, and I have 4 slides on that, which are not part of this presentation. But when we talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution, Industry 4.0, cyber-physical manufacturing, all of those terms link together with artificial intelligence and automated. We frame it around advanced manufacturing production facilities, and working in that environment, which does include programming and artificial intelligence. So there's that piece on the advanced manufacturing side. On the computer information, computer science side, computer information technologies is one of my programs. We are looking at different programs to address programming in general, but also the new blockchain technology that's emerging and preparing students for that, which will be the next sector that'll really come online and need employees.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I don't believe that Amy Williams is here today, and so we are going to go ahead and skip over agenda item number 9B just for the sake of time, and we're going to move into item number 10A. We will be looking forward to a great presentation from the new athletic director, so Dr. Hilgerson.
So I am very excited to do a couple of things today to briefly share some of the recent history of how athletics will be arriving to EMCC very soon. And I also have the pleasure to announce Dr. Tina Ruff, which I will give you a little bit more detail in a moment. But no, stay here, Tina. This will take me a second. So fresh start. Just a reminder of how all of this came about. We're ready for the first slide, Lisa. So back in September of 2017, TMCC requested and received NCHE approval to move forward with student activities fees for athletics and also approving of a sports and health concept. The goal at that time was really health, fitness, and athletics all combined into one very fun package. So a groundbreaking is occurring November 27th. It's the Sports and Health Complex. We had to change the name around as to not compete with this building, the HSC. So instead, we will have the HC. Okay. I call it the Health Club, the TMCC Health Club. That's sort of what I do in my head. And there are naming opportunities for donors who are interested in naming, but it's pretty exciting. The architect managed to carve out enough money for a health club at the Dandini campus, which will be available to all students at all campuses, free of charge if they want to work out, play basketball, take a Zumba class. All of that will be offered in a new facility, which will be managed, by the way, also by Tina Ruff. She will be the manager of that health club. And in addition, what the students really wanted was competitive athletics. So we'll start with men's and women's soccer. The students assessed themselves back in 2017, a 50-cent per credit fee to help support the team travel, team uniform, things like that. So, and in a minute, I'll turn it over to Tina. By the way, back in September 2017, the students also passed a resolution which was shared with the Board of Regents at that September 17th meeting in their huge packet of materials, passed a resolution declaring their intention to join the Scenic West Athletic Conference, which is a member of the NJCAA, the National Junior College Athletic Association. So a lot occurred in September 17. Fast forward to today, we're getting ready to break ground. So next slide, please. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that one of the things that our new athletic director has already done was she completed a collaborative strategic plan. This is the vision statement and the mission statement, and this is not a surprise, okay, because she has an amazing background. Dr. Tina Ruff has been working with UNR Athletics for 16 years, and we poached her. I'm pretty excited about that. She is a Northern Nevada native, an All-American softball athlete where she played at Arizona State University. She also earned her master's degree at Arizona State University and earned her doctorate at the University of Nevada, Reno. She is absolutely passionate and committed not just to building a competitive athletics program, but to building student engagement on our campus through health, wellness, and athletics. She cares deeply for student success. It's been a joy working with her. I think Dr. Marie Murgalopour and Amy Williams, thank you for hiring her and setting some amazing groundwork for her to come in literally on fire. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our new athletic director, Dr. Tina Ruff.
Well, happy Friday, and as Isela said, go Lizards. I'm super excited to be here. For the record, Dr. Tina Ruff. I passed around, you'll have a little, we call them stress soccer balls, so when you feel stressed and whatever, just squeeze it or throw it at somebody as they're walking by. I'm also left you a little information card. We have a coming soon, and there's a TMCC Lizards at tmcc.edu. That is a email that I will check if you want more information on athletics. And then on the other side is a coming soon, and this is our website, our landing page for the TMCC website. I want to thank Dr. Hilgerson, Marie Murgalo, Amy Williams, Estela Gutierrez, Elena Bamova, Jim New, and Gretchen Sawyer, and various TMCC staff for this incredible opportunity to hire me to be the first athletics director at TMCC, and also to assist us with this incredible endeavor for students to be able to come to TMCC, get an education, and participate in their sport. And it's great for Northern Nevada. My goal is to have 80% of Northern Nevada communities, those student athletes, to come to TMCC. So this is our, like Dr. Hilgerson mentioned, this is our vision and mission statement. This was a big collaborative effort with many students on our campus and faculty, staff, and our strategic plan still is in draft form, but it is almost complete. And it is in lockstep and alignment with the TMCC strategic plan. Next slide. So these are our core values that we came up with. And again, this is student government, We have veterans, we had access outreach and retention students, we had all kinds, and we all came up with something that was really indicative of what they felt that we stood for, and what we will stand for in athletics. And then our wonderful marketing and communication staff, they're so creative. I love what they do for me and athletics, of course, and they put on the back of a lizard, and we thought that was pretty cool. Next slide. Here you go. So this is, we are going to be competing in the NJCAA. It is the second largest national level association next to the NCAA. And we will be able to vie for championships, national championships. And they have 24 regions. The Scenic West, pending approval from the Board of Regents, we hopefully will be a member of that. They make up Region 18 of the NJCAA. And you can see the states that the Scenic West has. College of Southern Nevada is in the Scenic West. Great Basin Community College is in the same position we are, where it's pending board approval that will be in that conference. Next slide. Okay, so the construction of the sports complex, I know we had touched on that. We are breaking ground. We're super excited. We already have 65 RSVPs. The email just went out yesterday, so everyone's super excited about that, just like the whole entire staff is. We are breaking ground on a fitness center, 20,000 square foot, with multiple. We have a big gym. We have a volleyball court. We have basketball. Pickup basketball. All kinds of stuff that can go on in there. We have also 3 multi-purpose exercise rooms and a cardio and weight room area. So it's going to be beautiful, state of the art. And then the soccer complex, the soccer field, where we'll actually have competitive soccer on a natural grass surface, not turf. And then we'll also have a lot of offerings that could be intramurals as well out there for students. And it's 110 by 80. And then we'll also have a little dirt track that will go around for staff and students and people who can be active out there and run. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. We'll have lights as well, I believe, for now. The fitness center is slated to be open. Fall 2019 with an opening of spring 2020. And then we will hopefully be ready for our first competition August 22nd of 19. Next slide. For the Regents and for this presentation, I wanted to be very transparent with our budget numbers and what we've put together. And so this first slide is the administrative costs of what I project will be what we need to spend or have in our budgets for 5 years. Again, this is not adding any additional sports. So this is what we have as all the line items, and I was very conservative, just so you all know, like I wasn't like pie in the sky. This is very, very conservative to run a two sport program. The next slide. This is the sports specific expenses that we have, and you'll see that it's going to cost us about, when you get out to 21, about $96,500 per team to run it, and that's just everything that goes into it. And we are hiring part-time coaches. These are not full-time coaches. They are definitely part-time, and this is a pretty low salary, and we also have a pretty good pool already. I'm hiring coaches. We have a great search committee of a Team CC faculty. We have the head coach of the 1868s, the head coach of the women's soccer team at Nevada. We have a community member who's in the club area. So we have a really good search committee, and so hopefully we'll be able to hire someone who's two individuals for both teams here shortly. And then these are startup costs. You can see in the first FY19 we have to have a lot of startup costs, and you can kind of see what that bottom line is. My last slide. So if we were to grow any further in athletics and add a couple more sports, we definitely want to go back to the students and make sure that it's their voice that's heard and that they have the opinion, that they give their opinion, because they were very, very thoughtful and very, very excited about adding athletics at TMCC. A couple thoughts in my mind, looking at our assets and what the University of Nevada has and doesn't have. And so, UNR, sorry, I call it University of Nevada. And I would potentially ask the students if they would have an appetite for women's volleyball, because then they can go right into a four-year school right across the highway or McCarran and go and play at University of Nevada. And what UNR doesn't have is a men's cross-country team. And so I think that would be a really good, and men's cross-country is an emerging sport in the Scenic West, and it's really popular and not that expensive. So that's my presentation.
Are there any questions for Dr. Ruff? I have a quick question, and that has to do with the escalating cost of construction and just the factoring in of construction costs when projecting out into the future, if that's currently being factored into the expense plan and budget for the coming years.
Would you like me to answer that? Yes. So at this point, we did have to strike a chunk of the project because of escalating construction cost. At the groundbreaking, November 27th, assuming we can actually get started, right, and everybody's ready to go, we're just waiting for a signed contract, we think we will come in exactly where we need to be, but that was because we eliminated one component of the project, and that is the field house. We will be completing the infrastructure on that so that at some point we can have a field house, but that was sort of a locker room down by the soccer field. Instead, we expanded some of the bathroom facilities up at the health club. So it means that our athletes will have to jog up the hill and take their showers there if they need to. So, but that was unfortunate. I think that the cost of projects has gone up. What was more important to us was to find a way to come in on target. And at this point, everything is looking really good on that score.
Great, thank you. Well, we look forward to working with you and to a great Lizard teams, and look forward to the groundbreaking as well. So thank you. All right. Were there any other comments on item 10B that you'd like to make, Dr. Hillerson, before moving along?
I think because of the question that you asked, I think I just made it. So
Okay,
I think we're good.
All right. So we're going to move on to agenda item number 11. And first, I'd like to explain that the chair of the IAC, Elmar Dave, has submitted his resignation because he is going to be out of the country for at least 3 months or more pursuing a new business opportunity. So with his travel schedule and with his needing to help get a new business started, he just didn't feel that he could completely fulfill and meet the needs of TMCC by continuing as the chair. So as a result, his resignation has been accepted, and today we will be accepting nominations for a replacement chair. So I am looking for a motion among the IAC members for a replacement chair to take over the TMCC chair position of the Institutional Advisory Council.
Madam Chair, I would like to place the name of Clifton Macklin in motion for chair of the IAC.
Thank you. And do I have any other motions for consideration? Hearing none, we have a motion from IAC member Collie Hutter to nominate Clifton Macklin to become the new chair of the Institutional Advisory Council.
Do you need a second?
I think that motion needs a second, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. I have a second
I would
for that
second
motion.
that
Okay, we have a second from John Thurman. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion has passed, and congratulations to Mr. Macklin.
Thank you for your vote of confidence.
We'll all look forward to working with you. I'll be moving on to agenda item number 12, any new business that we would like to include as a future agenda item. Okay then, thank you. The next item, number 13, is the opportunity for IAC council members to discuss what you've learned today and how you might share information about the programs and or support the programs. So I think instead of going around the table one by one, I would like to just open it up for your input or comments on any of the agenda items today and any additional information that you have to share that would be of benefit to the rest of the IAC members. So any input from any of the members? Mr. Thurman, would you like to briefly just mention the opening of the American Job Center?
I certainly would. Thank you. John Thurman, for the record, and what Chairman McCormick is referring to is the opening of the American Job Center located at the Reno Town Mall here in Reno. And what that is under the law, under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, there's a requirement to bring certain programs together into a local location. It's a brick and mortar part of what I always refer to as the one-stop system. So it's just that one-stop center that's part of that same system. And we had the grand opening on October 12th last month, and things are going well. We're still challenged with a few little IT issues, but we will get past those. And so we're certainly looking forward to what that center can bring to the community. My vision of Reno Town Mall is more of a workforce development, center or complex or campus, if you will, as we would bring more and more partners into that location.
Great, thank you. And my understanding is that through that collaboration and the presence of all these different entities in one place, that they've already seen a significant uptick in the number of clients served, because they're coming in to meet with a particular agency. If that's not the right agency, they're able to warm transfer them to the correct agency, walk them over to talk to someone else, or if they have started in the right place, but there's other services that could be provided to them to help them navigate the workforce system, that they are also taken over to be introduced to the next step in the process. So it should be a really great advancement for the community and for both employers and seekers to have all of these entities all in one place. So.
And just one other note along that, next week on the 16th, I believe it is, they're having an IT, we'll call it a job fair, but it's more of a career fair, where several of the organizations in the community, educational organizations, will be there, as well as employers and stuff, to introduce not only the center and the services there, but to introduce IT and technical career paths for individuals, and then a source for employees to the employers.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or announcements? Yes.
Can I just give a quick shout out, Deborah Beiersdorf? I wanted to say thank you to Estella sitting in the back there, and her team, Sharon and Manuel, who after our last meeting had done a presentation around the Men of Color mentorship program, and then came to the school district and made a presentation recently to our Board of Trustees that was very well received, and as a result, I think has got even more support in motion from the district to support MOC. So just wanted to say thank you very much.
I'd also like to invite Dr. Hilgerson. Would you like to just provide brief comments on the connection with Costa Rica? As you know from previous meetings, there's been conversation about TMCC and bringing international students to Northern Nevada to pursue their education, and I'd like to turn it back over to you to share a little bit about that.
Okay, fantastic. So we were recently invited, meaning the president and VPSD Estella, to Costa Rica. And what was really great about it is Estella and her team, of course, they weren't satisfied with the invite from the University Fidelitas, who actually paid for most of our travel expenses. But of course, they stacked on meetings with other educators during the trip. And I'm happy to report a couple of things. New partnerships with Costa Rica are underway, and I think they will end up leading to students traveling here to study for short periods and potentially long periods, but also having study abroad programs where we send probably small numbers of TMCC students and faculty to Costa Rica to learn from one another. One of the most exciting elements of the trip, and the reason why there's a lot of excitement in Costa Rica about TMCC, is there is a foundation called Cruces. In the past, Cruces, and they're funded largely by private investment and government funds, Cruces has provided scholarships for Costa Ricans to study at the graduate school level. As a result of a relationship that we've made with a woman named Gabby, now I'm forgetting Gabby's last name, but Gabby used to work for the Costa Rican embassy, and now she is embarking on her own enterprise, which relates to international student programs. But Gabby convinced Cruces that their money is better spent sending Costa Rican students to community colleges. So they gave 11 Costa Ricans $40,000 each to study for 2 years at community colleges, and I'm happy to report that TMCC has received 3 of those 11, which is fabulous. And we'll give you an update and give you a little more detail, but it's just the beginning of a wonderful, wonderful partnership, and we're very excited to see where it goes. I should also mention that we also applied as a result of the Governor's Trade Mission, and I know I've shared this with you before. We applied for a 100,000 strong grant, which is also private investment, international private investment. Lots of banks contribute to that fund. And we have begun, and we got the grant. We were a 2-year college applying with another 2-year college system, Senati. We hosted the students, Estella and her team, with help from a lot of instruction. Thank you, Marie Mergelopur and Kyle Dalpy, for opening your arms to these students. We had 4 students and a faculty member come, and they studied with us for 3 weeks. They had a fantastic time. It was truly an inspirational time for the domestic students. You can imagine the domestic students studying at the Technology Center at Edison, also learning from Peruvian students, and that's kind of what happened, I heard through the grapevine. So we'll tell you more as these things unfold, but you know, you start a little bit at a time and you see what blooms, and I'm really happy to report that we're making progress very quickly.
Great, thank you. I would also like to encourage anyone, if they have questions, many of the presenters, since we do have additional time now left, many of the presenters are still here, so were there any additional questions from any of the council members that they wanted to ask during the presentation from the numerous people that have spoken today and provided updates? Okay, hearing none, from an EDON perspective, we yesterday had a very interesting meeting with the major investors and our board members, with representatives from blockchains. Mr. Macklin mentioned, and I think Dr. Dalpy mentioned, you know, really planning for the future workforce needs of what the skills are going to be needed in the next 5 to 10 years. And so there was a really amazing presentation by the CEO and co-founders of blockchains and what their plans are for this region. Extremely exciting that Northern Nevada has the opportunity to be in the middle of the evolving blockchain technology wave. And I don't know if all of you were able to see the announcement in the video that came out of Prague, where they announced their plans. But in addition to the folks from blockchains who are really going to be creating an environment where people can work together and collaborate to discover the various applications and ways that blockchain as a technology can be used to transform multiple industries. There was also a company that has not yet announced who is already planning to locate in the region that is working to use blockchain to transform the particular industry that they are in. So really exciting for this area to be ahead of that curve and getting this commitment from blockchains to be the center of excellence for this new technology. So really exciting news on that. Do I have any other questions, comments from anyone? Okay. Not hearing any, I will go ahead and move on to agenda item number 14. For public comment. Public comment will be taken during this agenda item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item until the matter is included on an agenda as an item on which action may be taken. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Persons making comment will be asked to begin by stating their name for the record and to spell their last name. The council chair may elect to allow additional public comment on a specific agenda item when that agenda item is being considered. Is there any public comment in the room today? And do we have anyone on a phone connection at all today? No. Okay, hearing none, I will officially adjourn this IAC council meeting. Thank you so much.